one. Hey there, folks. I am the Mighty Plantain. It is Friday. Well, I don't know if you can hear that, but there's actually sirens in the background. That's a rarity on my quiet country road. That quiet country road, it's actually kind of a major thoroughfare, but still pretty quiet, all things considered, usually. Anyway, I'm sure I'll see about what's going on the local Facebook page tomorrow morning. But, as I was saying, and I've got... Those have been sitting under my counter longer than I thought. All right. There's debris on the cans. All right. Back to it. I am doing not one, but two new to me, anyway. Sierra Nevada brews. Thank you very much, Dan B, for bringing these up and letting me know that they're out there. We've got Hazy Little Thing IPA. This is a 6.7% ABV, and the IBUs are not listed. That's interesting. Anyway, a 6.7% ABV IPA, Hazy Little Thing from Sierra Nevada. They usually have some pretty solid beers. And we have Big Little Thing, Imperial IPA at 9% ABV. Also, no IBUs listed. Alright, so normally I would recommend going with the 9% ABV beer first, and then following it up with the lighter 6.7% ABV, because it's just smart to go from your higher alcohol content beers down to your lower alcohol content beers as the night progresses, because you drink this fast and you're starting off and you really start to pick up the pace. The more drunk you get, the faster you drink the beers, so it makes sense to go down to the lower ABV beers so you kind of slow yourself down a bit as you're speeding up, because you drink faster but you're drinking less alcohol. Anyway, that's my normal line of thinking, but I'm looking at a regular IPA and an Imperial IPA, and I'm thinking, even though the IBUs aren't listed on here, in terms of tasting these beers and reviewing them for you, I should go with the one that is likely to have lower IBUs first, and then hit the one that has higher IBUs. International bitterness units, the measurement of how hoppy or bitter a beer is, you want to go from lower to higher, because the higher ones will wreck your palate and make you less likely to pick up on the more subtle flavors of the lower bitterness beers. So that's just a little bit of trivia, beer drinking. I don't know. It sounds pretentious to call it education, but I'm going to call it a beer drinking education. And I know 90% of you who watch these videos already know everything I just said, because you're beer aficionados yourself. So, that being said, we're going to go with the Hazy Little Thing first. I'm going to finish that up, and I'll, cleanse with some water and follow it up with the Big Little Thing Imperial IPA. Now, family owned, operated, and argued over. I like that little slogan from Sierra Nevada. I'm just looking to see if there's Chico, California, and Mills River, North Carolina. Yeah, there's not a whole lot else on here. The one thing I am noticing, though, is these are not 12-ounce cans. Sorry, there's still some, it looks like broccoli floret debris. Anyway. These are not 12-ounce cans, obviously. These aren't the regular, larger 16-ounce cans. This is a 19.2-ounce can. So, I don't know. 1 pint and 3.2 fluid ounces. I was going to say, I don't know if this is a 16 ounces is a fucking pint, you dummy. I was going to say, I don't know if there's some sort of metric equivalent that made this an easier can to get a hold of, or if there's some other reason they went with this size over the standard 12, 16, or larger. I think 24 and then 32. But COVID times, you know, this shit's hard to get a hold of. So, Jesus Christ, I just gave the whole spiel about what I was going to do, and then I gravitated towards that one. I should be handling this one. I know I didn't say specifically I was going to drink that one first, but I was going that way, wasn't I? Anyway. Wow. Yeah, by the way, this might not be my first fucking video of the night, because I've contradicted myself twice now. I'm assuming that the IBUs in this beer are lower than the IBUs in this beer. I'm just going to set it aside so I don't get distracted and think I need to drink that one first. See, that's my typical pattern, is going towards the higher ABV beer and working my way down. But I am not drinking for recreation tonight. I am drinking for education and information. So, I promise that's going to be the last time I fuck that up. That specific thing. This video is far from being over, so I'll probably fuck something else up too. Anyway, Hazy Little Thing IPA, again, 19.2 fluid ounces, weird sized can. I can only assume that it's because of some metric equivalent. I'm going to remember to turn it back on, but I'm turning the heat off before it kicks in and completely drowns out everything I have to say. Anyway, I can only assume that that's because there's some weird metric equivalent that made this can easier to get a hold of. I can do the Google search, by the way, great way to convert metric to Imperial. Just type in your measurement and say like 19.2 ounces in, and it'll probably autocomplete for you milliliters or whatever. And it'll be obvious that there's a reason that this size can exists. But, all right. I think I've harped on that enough. You know where I'm going with it. Well, with the head, there's still a little bit of beer in there, and my glass is full. So, I'm getting a whiff of hops from back here, which isn't bad. Oh, Hazy Little Thing. That's pretty damn hazy. Look at that. I mean, that looks like an orange juice at the top of the glass. I mean, more like a lighter lemonade down at the bottom. Oh, look at all the bubbles coming up. Sorry, my finger slipped off the button there. There are tons. I don't know if you can see those tiny, tiny little bubbles, but if you look down here in the lower part of the glass where there's more light getting through, there are tons and tons of bubbles. And that head is not going down anytime soon. That is being replenished very quickly by those bubbles. Man, that is a very effervescent beer with a very juicy, hazy look to it. Damn. I'm just impressed by the number of bubbles. That is, wow. That's crazy. I've got to stop because I'll keep watching those bubbles all damn night. Now, when I originally opened it, I was smelling some hops as I poured it, but it's not too crazy. Getting your nose right in there. Flaring my nostrils here. You guys can probably see that I haven't trimmed the nose hairs in a while. I'm wearing a mask all fucking day covers it up so I don't worry about how it looks. And I keep going back in because I'm actually getting hints of earthiness. I mean, slight metallic, which can sometimes happen because of the can, but I'm not used to that from Sierra Nevada. They usually don't have the metallic aroma in the cans. But again, different size. Maybe they had to source the cans from somewhere else. Maybe it's a different type of can than what they usually have. But I'm getting hints of aluminum or just a metallic aroma, but more earthy than metallic. Dip my nose right in the foam there. Not bad though. Once the head settles down a little bit, you can get the whole can in this size glass. This is the 22-ounce glass, so still a lot of bubbles coming up from down there. All right. Nice medium mouthfeel. Medium to medium light. It's on the lighter end of medium, but not quite a medium light. Smooth, crisp. There's upfront like this overall hoppy bitterness to it. It doesn't really separate itself into distinct flavors, but after you've swallowed, and in the finish, excuse me, it starts coming through with mostly earthy. Huh. Now for me, that's a surprise because I'm keyed towards citrus and pine. I usually pick up on those. So anything other than those, those two particular esters from hops is unusual to me, and it gets my attention. But it's mostly earthy, but then there's a hint of pine, slight amount of citrus, and some floral notes with like a grassy aftertaste. I mean, it's definitely got a solid malt backbone, but not necessarily anything too heavy or overpowering in terms of flavor. This is distinctly a grainy beer, but it's mostly the hop esters that I'm getting the flavor of. And even though it's as hazy as it is, I'm not getting any thickness, oiliness, or cloying feel or flavor to it. It's just kind of light, hazy little something. I mean, hazy little thing. I'm sorry, little something, SUMPIN apostrophe, is a Lagunitas thing. Lagunitas, I believe. But anyway, Hazy Little Thing IPA. It's a hazy little thing. It's good. Solid, easy drinking IPA with earth tones overall, which again is not new, but different for me, and it's got my attention. And then again, in the finish, there's hints of citrus, pine, floral, and maybe some grassiness that lingers. It's just a nice, fresh, refreshing IPA, and I would drink this in the hot weather. Pardon. I would also drink it in the cold weather. I am right now. It's probably fucking in the single digits, if not below zero out there right now, which makes my decision to turn off the heat even dumber. But anyway, yeah, this is really, really fucking good. It's not blowing me away with anything new, unique, or different, although I am impressed by the fact that I'm getting earthy tones off of it, which I don't normally, and that's why I'm putting this at a 4.5 out of 5. Again, the 5 for me is like a wow reaction or a perfect beer reaction. This is getting more points than an above average beer. It's not quite in that wow category, but it's getting extra points for having earthy notes, which I don't usually get. So, 4.5 out of 5 from me tonight for this beer. I'm going to finish it up and cleanse with some water, and then we will look at the big Little Thing IPA, Imperial IPA. All right, and one glass later, and water cleanse after that. Now, counterintuitively, hence my double reversal earlier, now we're doing the Big Little Thing IPA. This is the Imperial IPA. I assume a counterpart to Hazy Little Thing IPA. But this one's at 9% ABV. And again, I said counterintuitively, I normally would go from a higher ABV to a lower ABV. But I assume this has a higher IBU than the Hazy Little Thing. Hence the water cleanse in between, the fact that I'm actually going to a stronger beer rather than a lighter one. Little nervous about that, but in terms of sampling and flavor, you're better off going from lower IBU to higher IBU because it, again, ruins the palate faster. So, and if you paid attention during the first half of this video, I just repeated myself probably for the third time. Anyway, right. I did a slightly less aggressive pour on this, but I think I'm going to be able to, because of that, get the whole thing all in one pour. So, I didn't get as good of a head on this one, and actually, interesting. It's just as effervescent as the Hazy Little Thing, but that effervescence is way more apparent in this one because it is less hazy. Honestly, less hazy, more clear. Maybe a little darker in color. It gets tricky though, because this is a darker orange, but it's less hazy. And this is actually a darker yellow down here at the bottom. You can see my ring finger as it's tapping. But it's less hazy, so it's letting more light through, but it's a lighter color, or a darker color. But look at those fucking bubbles. I mean, there's tons of bubbles suspended, but there's tons of bubbles coming up through. And there's actually, even though there's less haze, there's more particulates in this beer. There are flecks and flocks floating around in there and particles that are more apparent than there were in the other beer. I don't know, maybe you could say it's more hazy in the sense that there are bigger chunks, but they're not as fine, so they don't present an overall haze as much as this does. So comparatively, I'd honestly say this is less hazy, more flocculent or particulate laden than the other one, but it's also got a slightly darker color to it, which overall is very interesting, but what really matters is how the beer tastes. The head's fading faster, even though this is just as effervescent, I think, if not maybe a little bit more than the Hazy Little Thing. This is actually, the head's actually fading faster. It actually has a more neutral aroma. I'm not picking up on much of anything in terms of smell. Now again, I did do a pretty thorough water cleanse. We're talking like somewhere between 10 to 12 ounces, just eyeballing it, in between. So, 10 to 12 ounces of water drank and swished around should have cleansed my palate at least as thoroughly as it can be after a good IPA. Yeah, getting a pretty neutral aroma, maybe just a slight graininess and almost like a brewed tea aroma. Just a very, very slight hint of that. It's got a nice medium mouthfeel. I mean, definitely an Imperial. Up front, I'm getting the slight booziness of that 9% ABV, the boozy sourness of that. And then just a general hoppy bitterness. I'm having a little trouble quantifying this. It's got some serious dankness to it. Major dankness. Followed by earthy undertones, which again, he gets extra points for that because I don't typically pick up on earthy notes. I'm mostly keyed towards citrus and pine. I don't know. I thought at first that maybe Hazy Little Thing was a nice, decent IPA that they put together, and then this Big Little Thing IPA was maybe the Imperial version. They just used a different yeast to bump up the ABV on it. But, I mean, based on the appearance and the aroma and now the taste, I'm thinking these are two very distinctly different beers. I don't know. I could be right in my first impression, and the fact that this has got more clumps or flocks than haziness versus haziness, and that just means that the overall character of the beer, based on the yeast used to create the Imperial version, made everything else different, or not. It could be a completely different beer. I'd have to look the website to find out or do some research, and I don't do research. I just drink the beer and tell you what I think. So, anyway. In terms of Big Little Thing being an Imperial version of Hazy Little Thing, I still think I could be right, assuming that the yeast used to create the Imperial higher ABV version influenced those other characteristics that I talked about, like, the flocculence and the size of the particulates in there, because it definitely changed the booziness, the alcohol flavor, and that slight sour alcohol, the slightly sour, high ABV character of the flavor of the beer. But I'm still getting earthiness, which, again, I don't usually get earthy notes. I'm more keyed towards citrus and pine, so when I pick up on the earthy notes, I do take notice of it. Not at all getting the metallic tang that I was from this one, so that's a good thing. Earthy notes up front, hint of grassy in the finish. I'm not really getting citrus or pine at all, so that's different. So I don't know. It could be a completely different beer. It could just be a different yeast used to ferment the same beer that we got out of the Hazy Little Thing. Again, that's a research thing, and I probably will look at the website after the fact just to satisfy my curiosity. But I gotta say, Big Little Thing IPA is a pretty damn solid Imperial IPA, and honestly, it's got the booziness and the slightly sour booziness that you expect from Imperials up front, but it fades pretty quickly. So I'm going to hit this one with a 4.5 out of 5 as well. I'm not quite ready, again, to go wow or say, ooh, that's perfectly balanced or that's a perfect beer, but it's as close as it can get. And honestly, the fact that Imperial character, that high ABV booziness, hits you in the face with the first couple of sips, but fades pretty damn quickly. I mean, I'm not only this far into the glass and it's gone entirely. Pardon. That speaks to its character. But I'm not quite ready to give it that wow or perfect response. So another 4.5 out of 5. 2 very good beers from Sierra Nevada. But that's just what I have to say about them. The hiccups are trying to break through here, so I'm going to try and tamp those down. So if I get a little awkward, and that's why. But hit me up down below in the comments or the email link down there. Love to hear what you have to say about these 2 beers while you're down there. Don't forget to like and share the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks again to Dan B for recommending these beers. Yeah, you're right. Well, I think you specifically mentioned Hazy Little Thing. I don't know if you mentioned the Big Little Thing. Looking back on it, we probably talked about both, but anyway. I know this one was your recommendation, and you were right. It's a damn good IPA. It's a solid offering, and it's a good go-to IPA. I mean, you can pick this up and drink it all day long in any season. I mean, same thing goes for Big Little Thing IPA, but you know, based on the difference in ABV, and you probably want to take it easier on that one. But thanks again for recommending it. Just to note for the rest of you folks, if you've got a viewer suggestion, a beer that you'd like to see me review, liquor, wine occasionally, or other malt beverage, just same thing, hit me up down below in the comments of the email link. I will try to accommodate you. Sometimes it takes longer than others. Sometimes the recommendation is not available in our area, hence the Maine/New England area. But I will keep a list, I will keep note, and I will do my best to accommodate those viewer requests. But 2 really solid offerings from Sierra Nevada. Can't find fault with either one. I'm going to slowly finish this one up because I am obviously inebriated enough that I should take my time with it. Until next time, folks, thanks for tuning in. Cheers.